Up next on The Reveal. A family burying their loved one discovered there's already someone else in the grave.
They have no idea who this is.
They don't know if it's a man, a woman.
A Georgia woman's DNA solves a decades-old cold case that spanned 3 states.
Nobody ever wants to think about being related to the killer.
There's a whole lot of properties that have been conveyed to your company where people are dead.
And hundreds of homes stolen with only a forged signature. From our Midtown studios in Atlanta, The Reveal begins now with our multi-Emmy and National Mural Award-winning team of investigators.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Brendan Keefe.
And I'm Faith Abube. A Reveal investigation has uncovered a Georgia cemetery accused of selling the same burial plot to more than one person.
Families say they were unaware of the problem until the day they tried to bury their loved one, finding someone else's coffin in the grave instead.
I mean, first you lose your daddy all suddenly, and then you find out that you gotta dig your mama back up. It's just been devastating.
It's been 4 months since their father's death, but Ellen Harrison and Judy Smith are not finished grieving. Distress, not just from losing their dad, but what they discovered inside his grave when it was time to bury him.
Who knows how many other people it's happened to or gonna happen to.
This past October, their dad, 92-year-old James Frick, passed away. The plan was to be buried next to his late wife, Annie Beth. They purchased 2 burial plots in 1986, just below 3 crosses, on top of a hill, inside the Morning View Cemetery in Rome, Georgia.
It's just simple, hardworking people.
Married 63 years, they wanted to stay at each other's side even in death, but that almost didn't happen.
And I get a phone call from up here at the gravesite. We're gonna have to put your dad somewhere else. And I said, what do you mean you're gonna have to put my dad somewhere else? Well, there's already a coffin in his plot.
This is a picture of what she saw, a casket inside their father's plot.
What was your reaction to
Well,
that?
that coffin's gonna have to go because our daddy belongs there next to our mother.
The cemetery owner declined to move the coffin, even after admitting they didn't know who it was.
That's what they told us. They have no idea who this is.
They don't know if it's a man, a woman.
It seems to me like you would know who's buried in your cemetery.
You would think.
Yes.
And I said, we want our daddy where he's supposed to be. And finally, the last thing they said was, well, we can dig your mama up and put her over there and then put your daddy where your mama was.
I felt like I was in the twilight zone and I couldn't get out.
They're not the only ones who went through this nightmare.
Is anyone up here where they're supposed to be marked who they say they are?
It happened to Thomas Kenny's grandparents too. When his grandmother Cora Lee died in 2007, he says a Morning View gravedigger also discovered an unknown casket buried in her plot next to her husband. Kenny believes a former cemetery owner is to blame.
I believe that the ones running this cemetery was reselling plots that had already been sold just to line their own pocket.
Oh, you just don't know the half of it.
Barry Henderson is on the legislative committee for the Georgia Funeral Directors Association. He also owns a cemetery.
I would say it doesn't happen frequently, but it does happen, especially a lot of the older cemeteries.
While rare, the Reveal uncovered decades of headline after headline involving people buried in the wrong burial plot in Georgia and across the country.
In most cases, cemetery owners say it's an honest mistake and they do their best to make it right. Morning View's current owners echo the same sentiment, but we've discovered one of its previous operators wasn't always so innocent.
In 1991, its former owner, Curtis Edwards Sr., pled guilty to 2 counts of violating the Georgia Cemetery Act, essentially admitting to taking money from dozens of burial plots he sold that was supposed to go into a fund to maintain Morning View and other cemeteries.
It's part of the state cemetery laws.
11 Alive covered the story when it happened.
I paid him $25 a month to have my Social Security disability check. And I wanted it fixed to where I wouldn't leave my children in debt.
Edwards is now dead, but some believe the impact of his crime is now just starting to surface as those he sold burial plots to pass away. And there's little families can do but wait.
Can the state do anything?
I don't know that the state could do anything in this regard. I think that it would all go back to the contract that the family entered into with the cemetery.
A civil matter.
That's correct.
Families broadsided with heartache, hoping others won't suffer the same fate when it's time to bury their dead.
Am I really sitting next to my grandparents or my mom or even my son? No one should ever have to have those thoughts go through their mind. They should know for a fact where their loved ones are.
All right, so Andy, does Curtis Edwards have any connection to the current owner of the cemetery?
No, but the cemetery has changed hands multiple times since he owned it. But coincidentally, one of its current owners has been convicted of multiple crimes himself, from drug trafficking to battery.
And is there anything people can do to avoid ending up in a burial plot where someone is already buried?
Experts suggest that you need to do some sort of background check on your cemetery, find out who owns it, and talk to friends and family. We have a complete list of other suggestions in this story on 11alive.com.
Coming up on The Reveal, she uploaded her DNA to a public website and ended up in the middle of a cold case investigation.
Didn't really think anything would come of it, so I just uploaded it on there and kind of forgot about it.
A Georgia woman uploaded her DNA test results to a public website and recently found out investigators used it to track down a murder suspect in her family. We've learned law enforcement agencies are using this new DNA tool more and more, even here in Georgia. But ethics and privacy advocates say it's time state lawmakers step up to protect you and the investigators using your DNA to solve crime.
99.7% European.
This was more the kind of information Jessie Still was looking for 2 years ago when she bought a DNA test kit.
I think everybody's interested in where you come from, what, your ancestors were.
When her results came back, there were a few surprises, like her connection to Africa.
And then got that trace evidence of
Congolese?
Yes, Congolese and Angolan.
Right around that time,
We found the needle in the haystack.
investigators arrested a suspected serial rapist and murderer who terrorized California in the 1970s and 1980s. They did it using something called forensic genetic genealogy, or FGG, to track down Joseph D'Angelo, the Golden State Killer, 42 years later. FGG uses someone's DNA profile, just like the one Jessie got from 23andMe, to flesh out a relative who might be connected to a crime.
I looked into how to do that and uploaded my DNA to GEDmatch and didn't really think anything would come of it, so I just uploaded it on there and kind of forgot about it.
But 2 months later, a cold case investigator 1,400 miles away sent Jessie this message. She was a familial match to a suspected killer.
At first I thought maybe it was a joke or a prank. Nobody ever wants to think about being related to the killer.
But Jessie kept thinking about the victim, Helene Przinski, a 21-year-old found in Colorado in 1980, raped and stabbed to death. For nearly 40 years, few leads and little evidence kept the case cold.
It's believed that Ms. Przinski got off her bus after work.
But within months of getting Jessie's profile on GEDmatch, a big break in the case.
Here we are today where we have an individual who's in custody.
Detectives used Jessie's DNA to track down and arrest her distant cousin, James Clanton,
There's DNA that's part of this case, a big part of this case.
for the 1980 rape and murder of Helene.
Do you know him? Nope, my dad doesn't know him. It's really just made me realize everything is connected.
It's that connection that law enforcement agencies across the country and here in Georgia are hoping to use to solve even more cold cases.
It's really very fascinating.
Teresa Schieffer and her team at the Cobb County District Attorney's Office used it to solve a serial rape case in January. Fulton County used the same genetic tool to solve a cold case murder last year. And now the GBI, Atlanta Police, and several other local agencies are exploring the idea of using DNA profiles posted on public websites to track down criminal relatives.
So now that I know that it works and it's out there, I definitely think we'll be using it again.
It's going to create a whole host of issues.
Not so fast, says Georgia State University ethics law professor Jessica Sino.
It is the Wild West a little bit because there is no regulation.
Some users like Jessie do opt in to allow law enforcement to use their DNA profile. But Sino says that's not always the case. Law enforcement still has ways around it to access your DNA information. Without formal, uniform guidelines, it can leave consumers and the integrity of the criminal cases vulnerable.
And I think a lot of law enforcement agencies are going to be blindsided by this. Yes, maybe a relative committed a crime, but you may have also just found out that that person is adopted, or perhaps a parent had an affair. So there's so many, familial issues.
But the state of Georgia isn't even discussing the FGG concern. The chair of the State Public Safety Committee told The Reveal he couldn't answer questions about how lawmakers on his committee can protect Georgians, or if they even should. District attorneys like Schieffer are not opposed to some regulation, as long as it allows them to still do their jobs.
We're going to start to see it more and more and more, and we'll need to resolve some of those issues, if we can, on the front end instead of dealing with that in the court system on the back end.
I think that strikes like a good balance, so people feel confident that they're safe, that they have their privacy.
Weeks since her DNA helped police crack a 40-year-old rape and murder. The suspect is still waiting for his day in court, and Jessie hopes her role in this investigation can help Helene's family heal.
That family that has been wondering for 40 years who killed their daughter, now they have an answer.
So after a lot of pressure last year, the DOJ released guidelines on these FGG issues, and this is just for federal investigators. So state agencies were still waiting for some sort of directive that protects their work and Georgians.
Faith, this is really frightening for people who buy these tests.
Yeah, it really is, and that's the issue here, right? People want to do this, but you have to wonder, what if this profile, this DNA profile, ends up in the wrong hands? Who will protect me? And that's where the state comes in. The CEO of 23andMe recently announced they were laying off 14% of their employees because the market is shrinking, and people are concerned about these privacy and ethical issues.
Up next on The Reveal.
I'm not gonna lie, the money was good.
Thieves allegedly stealing homes while already behind bars. Welcome back to The Reveal. Documents signed by people years after their death expose the lack of safeguards when it comes to property deeds.
Yeah, an investigation by our sister station in Dallas explains why it's so easy to steal a home that some are even accused of doing it from their prison cell.
He wants to talk to me. I want to talk to him. Hey, Arnaldo.
I'm not gonna lie, the money was good.
Arnaldo Ortiz made his money stealing people's properties.
I have bought me a couple houses.
At least 25 times in Dallas County alone.
Should it be that easy to fraudulently transfer a property?
It shouldn't be like that, but that's how easy it was.
In fact, it's so easy that he even allegedly did it from his prison cell. So how does someone steal your property? When a property deed's filed with the county clerk, no one checks to see if it's legit. So scammers are forging people's signatures on deeds, even the signatures of dead people, taking control of property they don't own, and then either selling it or renting it out to make easy money. Ortiz is just the latest discovery we've made in an ongoing WFA investigation. Mr. Baldridge, I'm Tanya Iser with Channel 8. Back in May, we told you about real estate investor William Baldridge. There's a whole lot of properties that have been conveyed to your company where people are dead.
Please get out of my face.
Like Ortiz, our investigation found Baldridge had also gotten signatures on property deeds from dead people, or even people that did not exist. Those documents then allowed Baldridge's companies to gain ownership of homes in Dallas and Houston. A criminal investigation into Baldridge is underway. Let's go back to Arnaldo Ortiz. This is surveillance video of investigators interrogating him 2 years ago.
Did you sign that deed or did he sign it?
He claims the owner signed it,
No, I didn't sign it.
giving him control of the property. Watch as the investigator calls him out on his lie.
Come on, Arnaldo. No, he did. You know this guy right here, the owner? That guy's blind. He can't sign his name.
Bank officials weren't off limits either. The name of a vice president at City Mortgage was forged to steal this home.
You sold this property. I didn't sell my property. Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
That house was sold to an investment company. In turn, they sold it to Leon Song.
We were doing a real estate investment at that time, so we were looking for a deal.
The real estate deals triggered a years-long legal battle. The question? Who rightfully owned the property?
I rely on title company. That's why we pay them to run the title for us.
The title company ultimately paid to settle the case, giving Song ownership of the home.
Before all this, did you have any idea something like this could happen?
No, I have zero idea.
Mark Tarabi is Song's lawyer.
Is there anything she could have done to protect herself?
In Miss Song's case, no, because she relied on the title companies and everybody was fooled.
Tarabi showed us a typical warranty deed.
And all you need to do is fake a signature on one of these. And once it's recorded, as a matter of public record, you're the new owner.
Last year, Ortiz pleaded guilty to more than 25 counts of theft. He got a 10-year sentence.
How surprising would it be to you to know that the person who did this to you is now accused of doing it again from prison?
Really? I'm speechless. How could he do it again?
Ortiz now faces 8 new felonies. One of them involves a man who died in 1994. Yet last year, somehow, the dead man supposedly signed away his home.
I don't know what else they're saying. They're saying I'm using money from my funds to commit crimes. I ain't did that.
And get this, we've been looking into dirty deeds for 10 years. This is Norris Fisher of Fort Worth, one of the most prolific real estate scammers in North Texas history.
How is it that the signatures of dead men could be notarized?
That's impossible.
There had been hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of false warranty deeds filed by Norris Fisher.
Retired federal agent Presley Darnell led the Fisher investigation.
He created a huge mess.
Fisher's been in prison for nearly a decade, but few safeguards have been put in place. Experts say requiring anybody filing a deed to show photo identification would be a start.
Otherwise, anybody can make a name up and forge documents.
And one thing's for certain, it shouldn't be that easy that it can be done from prison. As for Ortiz, he's awaiting trial in the Dallas County Jail.
There's some simple steps you can take to protect yourself. When you're buying property, be sure to use a title company. That way, if there's fraud, it'll be the title company that'll be on the hook. And check in with your appraisal district to see if they have a way to monitor if there's any activity on your properties. For The Reveal, I'm Tanya Iser.
Thanks for watching The Reveal, the nation's only weekly local investigative show.
We'll see you next Sunday for The Reveal. If you have a news tip or a comment on one of our investigations, email us at thereveal@11alive.com.